Councilman Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was reading through some of these documents. Can I maybe more interested into the asbestos issue? Now, is there asbestos in that ground? And I don't know who I should be asking, and if there are, what level of exposure does one face, or what level is found?
This is Joe Aiken, our project manager at Lowry. He's intimately familiar with the asbestos risks.
Yes, Joe Aiken, and I've been managing the environmental cleanup at Lowry since about 2002. In terms of whether there's asbestos in the landfill, yes, there is asbestos in the landfill because it's a landfill. There is everything that people would normally throw out. It's currently buried underneath a 2-foot cap, which is acceptable to the state of Colorado. And there's a covenant on the property that the state of Colorado would have to approve any kind of excavation into that cap. So any type of excavation activity, intrusive activity on the cap would require that the state of Colorado oversee that, and that we would have a materials management plan to deal with it just like any other site.
Okay, now, I'm not familiar with the law that surrounds that, but or the kind of level at which we measure the amount of asbestos and the risks. Can you kind of briefly summarize to me where it is on that scale, and what kind of risks are?
The risk from asbestos is from inhaling it, all right? You have to get a fiber into your lungs to inhale it. As long as it's buried under the cap, there's no inhalation risk. There are methods such as when you're excavating into it, you would use water the excavation down, you would put up a wind fence, you would prevent exposure to the fibers, all right? So the whole entire thing of the risk is exposure to the fibers. There's a very large body of evidence out there that says as to whether one fiber of asbestos is a problem or not. But everybody has, according to a document that I read, everybody has about 1 million fibers in their lungs already from just living in society, because asbestos is used in brake linings, it's used in building materials. So the risk is the incremental extra risk. And right now it's being protected out there, and that any method of construction that we would use would have to be protective, including the fact that most of that landfill, we've gone to a great extent to put fill on the landfill that will be buried under about a 6 foot of fill, additional fill, so that we can put our corridors, our utility corridors into clean dirt. We've tried very hard to minimize excavations into the materials.
Okay, the reason why I'm concerned about that is because I know that mesothelioma, which is what people get and die of in terms of contamination to asbestos, is on the rise. We're seeing a lot more people get it. I know this was more attributed to mine workers who, especially in our state's history, in Trinidad and some of the areas in the mines around Ludlow, we're seeing a lot more folks that whose families are not only themselves have been exposed to asbestos. I think we've are seeing more cases pop up. I'm more concerned. I'm not necessarily more concerned, but I'm especially concerned with folks that are going to be doing the work and doing the digging. Yes. What kind of precautions are being taken? What part of that precaution is the standard is by either the state or federal?
Well, one of the parts of our program at Lowry in general, because they had an asbestos find in the Northwest neighborhood, is that any time excavation is being done at Lowry, Lowry Assumption Corp., which is an IRG company, does oversight of those excavations. We have trained spotters who are asbestos trained spotters, and if they see something, we have on-call contractors who come in, they'll set up a wind fence, they'll wet the soil down, they'll take it out properly and deal with it. If we're in terms of a larger excavation, like when we dug, took 20,000 yards of dirt out of the Northwest neighborhood that was asbestos contaminated. That required that the individual workers were wearing asbestos monitors There's a very specific health and safety program that they have to go through, and it's all being done under the guidance of CDPHE. We don't really do anything without their approval or without their guidance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away, Joe, please, because I heard you say things that confuse me.
Okay.
I heard you say that you're adding 6 feet before you do the work so that all the utilities are in the 6 feet on top of the 2-foot cap. But you did say excavate or penetrate. So do you anticipate penetrating the cap?
Yes, we do.
We've had a request that you pull that microphone up as close as possible and speak into it.
How's that?
Better.
It's the people at that end, too.
Speak into it, please, not that direction.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think I'd next like to ask some questions of Jeffrey Deckler, if I could, from CDPHE.
Did you get your answer?
He just said yes. Okay. They are. I have 2 questions, so that you can handle them while you're at the mic. One is, how will you oversee the penetration of the cap? And I wrote CDPHE and forwarded the letter from Dr. Anderson about her concern about radiation, and I received an answer. I will share it with my colleagues, but I wouldn't characterize it the same way as she did. Would you like to go into the answer that CDPHE went about radiation?
Sure. First, I'll answer the second one first. On the radiation question, we looked into that. We had one of our most expert and senior hydrogeologists take a look at that. He also does a lot of work on radioactive sites, a lot of mill sites in the state, and it was his determination after looking through all the data that the radiation that has been found on site is naturally occurring. Okay. So that's that answer. Regarding oversight of excavation into the cap, really it'll happen in a couple of phases. The first thing that would happen is we would receive a plan that would say what they intend on doing, and we would comment extensively on that plan and make sure that whatever those plans are protective of human health and the environment, both in terms of the population that will potentially occupy the site afterwards and the workers that are doing the work at the site. Once the plan is approved, although they have their own oversight people that will be out in the field on a constant basis, we will also go out and do spot checks of their field operations to make sure that they are in compliance with the plan that we approved.
Thank you.